Good morning. That was great. Good job. My name is Laura Stern, and today I am serving you as treasurer of First Unitarian. We have a very interesting service today that will be the first of many to come, where we are going to highlight the substantial gifts that have been received by First Unitarian from bequests of estates. And today we're going to have the Snow family with us to talk about the bequest from the Snow family. And we have Anita Snow-Orlikoff along with her husband Jamie, her sister Sarah Snow, and also on Zoom we have Luther Snow. So welcome to the Snow family. It's wonderful to have you all here. I am also honored to welcome you with our worship team. Today we have Reverend Dave Messner, our minister. We have Liz Kreslin, who is our ministerial intern, and we have Adam Odell, who is our music director. I am also honored to serve as treasurer with Virginia Pace and Leslie Davis. The three of us all work together on all the numerous tasks that it takes to keep the financial operations running for this church. First Unitarian has been a home for progressive religion in Chicago and beyond since 1836. The church sits on the western shore of Lake Michigan, south of the Chicago River. We honor the indigenous peoples for whom these are unceded ancestral homelands, as well as the diverse and vibrant indigenous American communities who make their home here today. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults. A people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but the values we share, and the mission to grow our souls and heal the world. Whether you just stepped into this church for the first time or for the 1000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God all of the time, some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. No matter your race or who you love or how much money you do or don't have, you are welcome here. If you are a visitor, we are excited to have you with us. Please let us know that you were here by filling out a visitor card, which you can find right in front of you in the chair back. And be sure to include an email address, and you can drop it in the offering plate, and this will make sure that you get onto our weekly newsletter. Also, we have a practice for joys and sorrows. If anyone has a joy or sorrow that you would like to have read aloud, please fill out this card, which is also in the seat back, and give it to one of the ushers as they collect the offering, or you can just drop it into the basket. If you have a joy or sorrow that you would like the minister or the pastoral care committee to know about privately, you may also put these cards in the sanctuary box at the back near the entrance. Please join us after the service in Chris Moore Parlor for refreshments and good conversation. To get there, you just go up these stairs to my right and follow the crowd or ask anyone to guide you. Also, look to the back of our order of service, and you'll see that there are several things happening this week, and particularly today, we have a coming of age meeting with Reverend Dave at 11:15 a.m. in the youth room. And that's a little bit down the stairs in Pennington to my left here. And then at 1 o'clock, we also have the ongoing Faithful Defiance of Authoritarianism, where we always have a group of our First Unitarian members showing up at 53rd Street at Nichols Park in order to keep alive the feeling that we need to all be focused on the things that are happening in our society these days that are rather alarming. So, it is good to be together today. At this time, I would like to ask Gordy Taylor to come forward. Gordy is going to assist us with the chalice lighting. And please join me in reading our covenant as we light our chalice. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
It was some time ago in a church far, far away. We had a scheme occurred to us one day to have an elders service, kind of a wisdom service is what I'm talking about. And it was a good idea. It gave rise to a significant behind-the-scenes debate as to what constituted an elder. And very specifically, we had in mind a list of people we thought would be terrific to speak. Like, you couldn't leave them off the list. But we had to go through one by one and consider how they would feel when they were told they were being invited to an elder's service. You want to watch how you wield labels like that. There are different senses of that word elder. Elder can mean old, and that's a good thing. It is a gift to grow old. But I want to leave it to each of us to decide when we take on that label of old, even as we all bear the yoke of being older than we once were. In some sense, we get to choose when we will declare ourselves an elder and take that chair in the church. Elder can also mean, in our tradition, I want to point out, an appointed place in the church. In the great Cambridge platform of 1648, upon which this place is built, in a sense, and governed, the elders were said to be those who were blameless, sober, and apt to teach. Now, that's a whole other standard. Who among us, and I will leave it to you to decide whether you are blameless, sober, and apt to teach, or one or two of those things. But I'm going to give my own gloss to that idea, blameless, sober, and apt to teach. The good people who see some truth in the world and have a willingness to share it with others. Does that describe you? Do you see some of the truth? Has your journey taught you something about what is true and good and real in this world? And are you generous enough to share that with others? If so, you may just be an elder. And I'll tell you the truth now, after using this awkward 17th century term for some time now in my work, I've come to a whole richer and deeper embrace of this idea. And that being an elder is not so much about age, but about disposition, about an awareness of the gifts we have to bring, and just a willingness to offer that up to one another with some generosity. This is why I think in a way we come together as a religious community of Unitarian Universalists. This is why we are called to this place, to offer what we have with some audacious confidence that what we have is worth something, that we can offer something to someone else that they may be helped along in their journey and made the better for it, and that we ourselves might receive a gift of wisdom and insight and generosity and be made the better for it as well. So on this day, as Laura said, that we celebrate legacies and think about legacies, I want to expand the sense of that word as well and say to you, if you have not thought about your legacy, today is a day to think about. And if you're saying to me, I'm 7 years old, why are you talking to me about legacy? And I'm saying to you, because you have something precious to offer, and it will impact people for years and years to come. If you are 97 years old, I'm saying what you have is extraordinarily precious to this community, and it's what keeps these walls standing. My friends, welcome to the celebration of life, the celebration of legacy, the celebration of the elder in each of us. Come, let us worship together.
Please stand as you are able and turn to page 6 in our gray hymnals for our opening hymn.
It's hymn 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Just as long as I have breath.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to love.
Thank you. You may be seated.
I
I'd like to invite forward any young people who feel like it, or young at heart, parents or teachers or others feeling young at heart who'd like to receive a story on the carpet here, to come forward. And I have a story for us. There was once a girl who would go to the beach every day, and she would go up to the shore, and she would walk along the shore, and she would pick up the starfish, and she would throw them into the sea, the starfish who had washed up on the shore. And she did this every day, walking along the shore, picking up the starfish that had washed onto the beach. And one day, after many days of watching this, weeks of watching her do this every day, a neighbor came down to the beach and said to the girl, what are you doing? Why do you come every day to the beach and you pick up the starfish and you throw them into the sea? And the girl said, well, they'll die if I leave them on the beach. And the neighbor said, but this happens every summer, every day, more and more starfish piling up on the beach. Every day, these big piles washing ashore, and we see this every summer. There's so many. Throwing them in one by one, you're never going to make a dent in it. That'll never make a difference. Now, some of you may have heard this story before. Does anybody know what the girl said to the neighbor? Do you know what she said? She smiled confidently, and she picked up a starfish, and she said to the neighbor, it made a difference to that one, right? What you may not have known is that there's a sequel to that story. We are going to imagine together, a little ways off the shore there was a community of starfish who would gather together every year, and they would feast on oysters and snails, and they would give thanks for their family members who had been returned to them. They didn't think they would get them back. They were so grateful, and every year, the ones who had been returned would tell the story of the strange and wondrous shore creature who picked them up and gave them a boost back to get back to their loved ones, help that they really needed, and they were so grateful. And every year when the feast was done, the elder starfish would say, again we have gathered, again we have feasted, again we have given thanks, and again we go forth to care for each other and to care for the ocean around us. And they would do that. They would go home to their cozy rock home, and they would rest. And when they were done resting, they would get up and they would take care of their little ocean neighborhood. They would go out and they would look for sediment that had built up that needed to be cleaned up, and they would clean it. And they would go to the coral reef every day, and they would check for areas where too much algae was growing, and they would clean that. And because they did that, the coral was able to be healthy, and the coral provided a home for all the millions of species that called it home and that came through visiting. And as they did this, as they went about their work, the starfish were always on the lookout for creatures that needed a helping hand. Sometimes they saw a crab that had fallen on its back, had been pushed over, and the starfish were always looking for an opportunity to give that crab a boost to get back going on its feet. And they would look for little fish that had lost their way from their school, and the starfish would point the way. Never mind that they don't have eyes or brains. These are magic starfish. And they would look out for creatures that needed a home, and they would open their rock home to a little turtle who was on its way to where it belonged, or another creature who needed a place to be. And they would do this because they knew the value of a helping hand. Now, the little girl didn't know anything about any of that. She didn't know about the feast, and she didn't know about the coral, and she didn't know about all the species. She didn't know about the algae or the crab or the fish. All the little girl knew was that she kept a bunch of starfish alive for one more day, right? And that's usual. That's usually how it is for us. We take actions every day, and most of the effects of our actions we don't get to see. We might see that we could help someone with a homework or share a snack with a friend, and maybe we see that it helps them, but we don't see how they pay it forward to someone else and share the kindness. We don't see that maybe it meant that they could go home and actually still have a little food left over to share with a sibling. Or maybe we got someone interested in a new subject because we took the time to help them with their homework, and maybe they go on to become a great mathematician because we did that, and maybe we don't ever hear about that. It takes, as we think about legacy, as we think about living a life that will make a difference and be remembered, it takes a lot of faith and hope to continue to take those actions when we don't know what the effects will always be, but we know that the effects will be there. And the really good news is that, like the starfish, we get to do that together. With that, I invite our children to go to their children's program. If it's your first time, you can go sign up with the Director of Religious Education if you'd like to, and here in the sanctuary, we will warmly greet your neighbor. I invite you to warmly greet each other.
As you know, it's our practice to take up an offering that you shan't be burdened with excess wealth when you leave these doors. Just one of the robust suite of services offered you by your faith community. I wanted to give just a shine a light, give a shout out, because it was a really nice experience this past Monday, and it relates to another kind of offering. Once a month, we have a team. We go, and it's an open team, like a different group of folks go over to La Tiendita and the food pantry at the Coppin AME Community Center. La Tiendita's downstairs over on South Michigan Avenue. And we had this idea that each month we would gather up our donations of stuff to take there. And it used to be like very amorphous, so we would get like random odds and ends. Last month we said, bring some household goods, because there's one room there that's dedicated to the stuff you would need to get your apartment up and running. And one of the things we noticed was there was always like one odd plastic plate and one fork. And whenever something good comes in, it's like amazing. You all brought just like piles of really good stuff, including full sets of plates, including like a cool toaster oven. There was just a bunch of like good stuff that you would want in your apartment. And it was such a joy. One shout out to Ben and JT and Yoon and other folks I'm forgetting who were there. But the minute it landed, and I saw it went right back out the door. And you see the half a dozen people who were carrying out all the different things you brought and immediately out of the house. And that's a really rare thing, I realized, what a blessing it was for me, because you don't often get to see when you send something out in the world, when you offer, whether it's your dollars or your toaster oven, and you send it into the world, you send it in the faith that it's going to land in some hands of someone who will make good use of it. In that moment, to see it come and to see it go right out, everything but the toast itself going into it, was a blessing and really affirmed the sense that it matters when we offer something to the universe. I'm going to invite Maureen Graves forward. I don't know if you get Chicago Monthly. I don't know if she'll like this intro. Anyway, but the Chicago Monthly magazine, which is a wonderful magazine, has like, what is their article this month? It's like 30 cool people changing the world in Chicago. And so I went through that and started inviting the 30 coolest people in Chicago, and Maureen is one of them. Is that not?
Well, to my astonishment, it was 6 people, including the Pope.
6 people including. Absolutely. And Leo's next week. But this week, we have Maureen. And this month, our plate share is going to the organization that Maureen started. And I won't speak for her, but I want to say she started, I think, not necessarily in mind of having an organization of the scale it has become, but instead using her gifts to help new neighbors. So with that, I'd just like to invite her to say a minute or two about her work and how much she has done for this community. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to talk fast. I think you probably all know what's going on. It's strange when your work is in the headlines every day. But 2 things that people might not have gathered from the coverage are that ICE is really, and Border Patrol have really been focusing on taking away the men in the family, leaving women and children in their homes alone, terrified, without their main financial support. The second thing that might not be obvious is when they let people go, which they're increasingly being forced to do by courts, they are putting them literally in front of a gas station in Brazil, Indiana. Last week we arranged for 3 people. It was going to be 5, but it shrank to 3. Anyway, to get back to Chicago, and now we're trying to arrange housing for them. They were part of this. They lived in the building that was the subject of this spectacular raid in South Shore. A couple of them were picked up before, but all of them have no place to go back to. So it's a family of 6 and a man and his son who has autism. So we're trying to take care of their housing for the short term as they get back on their feet. What volunteers do is a whole lot of things. We started out mostly doing asylum applications, making them good enough to survive, to not get thrown out by courts, and I anticipated that courts would be urged to screen applications, so ours have been pretty substantial ever since we started doing them, which is now a very good thing. We have done hundreds of those. We have about 70 volunteers. Some of them speak Spanish, some don't. I studied Latin American politics and worked and wrote about asylum law in law school, so I'm coming back to something that I knew something about, but it's been a long, long time. Volunteers also work on work permits, which definitely doesn't require knowing Spanish. We do motions to reopen for people who have missed their court dates, often for medical reasons or moving around all the time and losing their phones. Lately, people are missing court dates because they're afraid to go to court. So we are helping with those, and we have about an 8 out of 10 record of winning those, which is one of the few things you get a quick answer on, so that's very good to see. I've done a lot of master calendar hearings, helping people basically buy time to get what I call a real immigration lawyer. I've also done 4 hearings for people who are detained who had no alternative and have lost all 4 of them, with judges with 80 to 97% denial rates. Basically, once people are in detention, the hearing system becomes extremely hard to win, and it's important to keep people out of detention by having them get work permits, be able to work legally, and be housed instead of out on the street somewhere or doubling up with people who may get mad at them and create problems for them. So what we use money for is mostly work permits. Those went from being free for asylum seekers to costing $550. We have filed hundreds of asylum applications, and we're trying to make sure that people pay the $100 that they have to pay to keep those alive, and new applicants have to pay $100. That may not sound like much, but it is to a lot of these people. The abandonment rate for asylum applications has usually been about 8 to 9%. Now it's about 46% in Chicago. So raising money for that is really important. And we just had an anonymous donor, and we also get food and rent requests, which we try to honor when we can. We also are looking for other places to send people, because obviously we can only save so many starfish. We are definitely in the department of when money comes in, it goes out right away. The other day I was moving around like $47. We have a constant need, so anything you can do to help us would be great. And we need volunteers as well as money.
Thank you so much for the work you do. And with that, today's offering will now be gratefully received.
Let the life I've lived speak for me. Let the life I've lived speak for me. When I come to the end of this road, and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I've lived speak for me. Please rise in body or spirit. Let the life I've lived. Let the life I've lived speak for me. Let the life I've lived speak for me. When I come to the end of this road, and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I've lived speak for me. Let the friends I've made, let the friends I've made speak for me. Let the friends I've made speak for me. When I come to the end of the road, and I lay down my heavy load, let the friends I've made speak for me. Let the love I've shared, let the love I've shared speak for me. Let the love I've shared speak for me. When I come to the end of this road, and I lay down my heavy load, let the love I've shared speak for me. Thank you. You may be seated.
Each week we make a practice of sharing our lives together by lifting up our joys and sorrows on the subject of the love that we've shared speaking for us. I have one from Ellie Hall. My joy is the visit from my brother, John Hall. I'm grateful for his help and support. We are also grateful for family and for your family, Ellie, and that you get to see them. From Scotty, I finally got a full-time job. Congratulations, Scotty. And another, this week I received a job offer letter. I had been waiting for 1.5 weeks. The internship, I'm a grad student, starts next May. Congratulations on that offer, Tony. And from Laura Stern, my joy is having all my children together this week to celebrate my favorite holiday. We are with you on that, Laura. And from Mary Beth and Haig, love and eternal peace for our beloved friend Rogan. Dear God, please help us with our grief at this overwhelming loss. Our hearts are with you, Mary Beth and Haig. God, we pray for comfort and strength for Mary Beth and Haig, and may Rogan's memory be a blessing. For all of these joys and for all of the sorrows held here together in community, those that we have named and those that we hold in our hearts, May we make space for these now and throughout the week. May we keep them and keep each other in tender care. May it be so.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
All right. Well, as I said earlier, we have some special guests today because we are going to do the first of many acknowledgments of bequests that have come in from estates and more about some other gifts as well that we have received over the years that maybe did not receive the proper attention that they should have gotten. So today we are going to start with the Snow family. I'm really happy to have Anita and Sarah Snow with us, and Jamie is Anita's husband as well. So I'd like them to come up, and we can take a minute to honor the generous gift, and I know that all of our gifts are generous that we receive, but this family, I would say, I have gotten to know over the years. Sarah and Anita have been very active alumni of our Chicago Children's Choir, so that has been something that started here at First Unitarian Church and grew in such a way that now it serves almost 4,000 children across the city of Chicago with a particularly talented group of high school students called Voice of Chicago that travels around literally the world. They were in Italy last summer, and they bring the message of uniting voices and music, and they put forth our best foot for Chicago. So I know that Anita and Sarah really contributed to that. We also have Luther, their brother, online. So Luther, I say hello to you as well. And I just really want to acknowledge that this is a family that has been with our church for, I'm going to say 50 years, 60 years? Yes. So in addition to the wonderful gift of the funds that came from the estate, this family has given gifts for many, many years of time, talent, and energy. So thank you for that. Did you want to come up and say a few words?
So our parents are now interred in the crypt. My mother would have been thrilled to have heard the hymn that we sang today, Just As Long As I Have Breath, because she chose that in her final days for her memorial service here. That those words about saying yes to life were very meaningful to her. Out of all of the ways that my parents touched the church over the decades that they were here, I'll just lift up one. I don't think we mentioned that I believe last night was the 60th anniversary of our Thanksgiving dinner service here at the church, and they would have been thrilled to just see how wonderful it was to see everybody here together. In fact, they moved to Bartlesville for 2 years, and they brought that service with them to Bartlesville, and as far as I know, they're still doing it there as well. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you again. And thank you to Richard and Rosemary. And we will be doing more of this acknowledgement, like I said, and we are also working to rebuild our Legacy Society, which is something that operated for many years, and then COVID kind of dropped it off the radar screen. So you'll be hearing more about that too going forward. So thank you all, and thank you everyone.
The future of the past is indeed the present, and the future of the present is so much of what living a life of faith ought to be about. There are too few compelling moments calling us to consider the possibilities we have to reach out and meaningfully connect with the distant future. So I want to spend our time this morning not only celebrating the kinds of legacies we have received, but exploring how we ourselves are going to return the favor. I want to challenge us to find a place of urgency in transmitting and enduring personal legacy. Let me begin with a story. This is the story of Robert Falcon Scott. Scott was a famous explorer at the turn of the 20th century. Now, he perished in the aftermath of the race to the South Pole in 1912. The British team that Scott led charged through grueling conditions and then got there to find the Norwegians. The Norwegians had already been there to claim the glory of a human first. Scott and the team had no choice but to turn around and head home. That's when they hit storms and all kinds of other problems that left them stranded for what turned out to be the rest of their lives, sadly, in a snowy field with temperatures of 40 below. And so picture here this difficult scene. Scott is stranded there inside his little tent, 40 below, and he was in the rare and very serious situation of having literally the rest of his life at his disposal to completely focus on legacy. Complete focus, but few tools. And in a way, this really extreme story is about a problem we all have. How do we use what often seem like too few tools we have to make our will and our work count beyond the scope of our own small existence? I mean that small existence. I mean the little sphere that we get to operate in, and yet we want to reach out and change the world. I mean that small existence in terms of our lives being quite brief in the scheme of things on this earth, and yet we want to reach out and ensure that our great-great-great-great-grandchildren and the great-grandchildren of my neighbor have good lives. Not only good lives, maybe even better lives than we ourselves had. Such as this kind of imagination of posterity, the religious imagination of the eternal, and the compelling case for legacy making. This is a house of legacy making. When we remember, we do honor, but we also learn how to live better. And the Unitarian Project, in a way, is a conspiracy of finding a path to live better, just a little better, together. Back to the tundra. Scott used his last energy, which was precious there, to write letters in what he hoped to be a legacy, a gift for the people he cared about. He wrote his wife with instructions. Does anyone ever leave instructions for your spouse? This is like the ultimate case of leaving instructions for your spouse. He prayed they would influence the course of her life, and then, quite importantly, the course of their child's life. He wrote this: "Dearest darling, we're in a very tight corner, and I have doubts of pulling through. I take advantage of a very small measure of warmth to write letters. I must write a little letter for the boy. The inherited vice from my side of the family is indolence. Above all, he must guard, and you must guard him against that. Make him a strenuous man. I am anxious for you and the boy's future. Make the boy interested in natural history if you can. It is better than the games they encourage at school. I know you will try and keep him out in the open air, try and make him believe in a God. It is comforting. And finally, don't be too proud to accept help. He ought to have a fine career and do something in the world." The letter goes on just a little bit, and then ends abruptly. For a little gender balance here, let me be a bit multivocal and share the same kind of letter from Milada Horokova. Ms. Horokova was a Czech resistance fighter against the Nazis, a fight she survived only to be sentenced to death for her politics in the communist regime that followed. As she was, forgive this slightly grim leaning, as she was awaiting execution, she wrote a very similar letter to her daughter Jana. My only little girl Jana, my God bless my life as a woman with you. Learn, my child, to look at life early as a serious matter. Life is hard, it does not pamper anyone. And for every time it strokes you, it gives you 10 blows. Become accustomed to that soon, but don't let it defeat you. Decide to fight. You will wonder and wonder why your mother, who loved you and whose greatest gift you were, managed her life so strangely. Perhaps then you will find the right solution to this problem, perhaps a better one than I could give myself. Learn from everybody, no matter how unimportant. Go through the world with open eyes and listen not only to your own pain and interests, but also to the pains, interests, and longings of others. One has to learn how to distinguish real gold from tinsel. It is hard because tinsel sometimes glitters so dazzlingly. I confess, my child, that often in my life I was dazzled by glitter. Death is not bad. Just avoid gradual dying. Just avoid gradual dying, which is what happens when one suddenly finds oneself apart from the real lives of others. It's a beautiful letter. Part of the gift that we try to offer to the future, when it comes down to it, the gift we want to offer those we love the most is the gift of our own experience. The parts that caught us unaware about ourselves and life, that caused us to struggle, and yes, most powerfully, the tools we found in those urgent moments, the tools we found just to make it through, just to survive those most difficult times. If we do nothing else for the future, I believe we must leave this testimony, our own testimony of the tools we found to make it through. That we leave tools behind that others may also make the journey in our name and in the great chain of travelers of which we are a part. In this brief moment, we are a link in that chain, and without us, all is broken. All is lost. Have no doubt about that. I love the advice in that letter to get in the world, to work strenuously, to avoid isolation, to open ourselves to others. There's the whole doctrine of this church to me. I love that both of those letters telegraph the hopes that the next generation will struggle less and see a better path more easily. It's what we hope. It's one of the great gifts of this place is that in a way we come here across, I always try and do the count, 5 generations. I was doing the count at one of our family tables at supper last night. How many generations you got in this family? What a gift. What we do here, which is peculiar, is we come together across 5 generations and we sit in not these pews, these new comfortably cushioned chairs every week. And it is a way that we transcend our own location, that we transcend time, that we see the future as we remember the past, and it all sits here right with us. What's the line? Everywhere, everything, all at once. It's right here. We can touch it. And whenever you think you're isolated and you're on the tundra and you're in the tent and you feel alone, you're not. There are generations with you. There is family you haven't met sitting with you, whispering to you, and perhaps awaiting the word you have to offer about the way forward. I did some research. I had to find out where Scott's son went on to be. His son Peter went on to found in England a wildfowl and wetlands trust. He saves land, kind of heroically. He went on to save a handsome breed of goose and a swan from extinction, trying to preserve the natural world. And I like to see and draw the line. It's not that hard to do, to see the line from the passions of his father in the discovery of the world, to the commitments of the son, to the preservation of the world. Such are the through lines as we continue the campaign, telling our own story in this day. What is your version of living into the legacy of your ancestors, literal biological ancestors and figurative ancestors? They pushed the stone forward. It is ours to continue pushing, but to use our mind and our insight to do it in our own way, to meet the call of this moment, to rise up and to continue the legacy and to add to it, that it might snowball, to grow larger and more powerful in this place. I'm talking today about the enduring gifts that we can give beyond the scope of our own lives and to become more intentional about that gifting. I'm talking about the heroism of possibility and resistance, which is in our DNA too. How we transmit heroism, how we give our lives for something of deep and enduring worth is the question. And then passing it on. When we're not imprisoned or adrift, we can create a legacy not only through word, but also through our many, many actions. I was struck in thinking about this. The good we do today and the investment we make in the future. I was reminded of, there's a management guru named Jim Collins who taught about being successful in organizational life, in business life, was not only about the project and product successes you can measure, but also about the structures that recreate excellence and change far into the future. He encouraged us, quite famously, to become clock builders and not only time tellers, if you get it. He explained it this way. Imagine that you could meet a remarkable person who could look at the sun or stars and amazingly state the exact time and date. Wouldn't it be even more amazing still if instead of telling the time, that person built a clock that could tell the time forever, ever after, even after she was long gone? It would be amazing to be able to leave something that endures, something that lasts. What are those things? What could we leave that will last more than a year, more than 10 years, more than 100 years? Such is the instinct of stone cathedrals. Such is that instinct. One engineer was thinking about this problem, not how do you build for 100 years, but how do you build for 1,000 years, this fellow named Danny Hillis. And he said, looking at everything in the world, he said, you have to survive, in order to survive over the long run, I'm quoting him now, you have to make the thing out of materials large and worthless, like Stonehenge or the pyramids. It has to be big enough that it's tough to carry away. And it can't be worth so much that people will carry it away no matter the weight, right? Or else it becomes lost. Hillis, he went to work on the problem. He came up with an answer, which, thanks to some enthusiastic and rich supporters, is in progress of becoming reality. He says, I want to build a clock. And I want the century hand of this clock to advance every 100 years. And I want the cuckoo on this clock to come out on the millennium. And I want that to happen every millennium, every 1,000 years, for the next 10,000 years. I want to build something that will continue to speak for 10,000 years. Now, there are a number of remarkable aspects of this project, which I wield as a metaphor for the intangible project that we have at hand. The extraordinary thing is the aspiration to stretch that into the future at such a distance that we don't normally even think in that frame. When I talk about long-range planning, we need to do a long-range plan for this church. You mean 5 years, 10 years? No, let's talk about the 1,000-year plan for the church. The 1,000-year plan, is my board listening? The 10,000-year plan for the church? Well, that sounds mildly insane. Yes, it does. One of the radical things about the clock Mr. Hillis is building is the requirement that it be wound by humans regularly. which is important because if you design something that doesn't need humans, it might last forever. We can design something and send it into space where it will be sealed in airlessness, sightlessness, silence, and it'll last a long time. But what is its meaning? The meaning is the humans that must tend it. For something to be alive 10,000 years from now, we better plan on people tending it who aren't sitting in these seats today. That's the extraordinary thing. We're leaving a legacy for children we have not met, trusting that they will be good and passionate and capable beyond what we can know. That's what's amazing about building the clock that we're building together, is that we're imagining the people of the future and making something special just for them. In this season of Thanksgiving, coming off of our dinner last night, and some of us getting ready, already defrosting the turkeys, if your turkey is over 20 pounds, it already should be defrosting, right? In this extraordinary season of planning for what's ahead, we're going to stretch beyond those 4 days and planning who will come on Thursday and what they'll want to eat. We're going to plan for the people who are going to be in this church in 20 years and they ain't here yet. Some of them are. How do you plan a meal for people you haven't met? Let's go 50 years, maybe people you're never going to meet. That's the call of moral imagination. What is the good not only for myself, but for my neighbor? What is the good not only for myself, but for my great-great-great-grandchildren and the great-great-grandchildren of my neighbor? That's the imaginative work we're doing here. So on this day, as you, I hope, accept this bold and audacious and difficult task, which is the task absolutely of a lifetime, I want you to move forward while looking backwards. Right? The Sankofa bird, that transition. Look backward, for in the legacies that have been left to us, we have the key to the future we are meant to unlock. And as we plan for the generations yet to come, feel emboldened by the story of the past, feel enlivened by the generosity of those who have gone before, and feel untethered and free. You have more resource than you know. You have greater gifts than you have yet shared. This is the invitation. This is the moment. Let us build something extraordinary. May it be so, and amen.
Please rise in body or spirit for our sending hymn. That's 1051 in the teal hymnal. 1051, We Are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
I invite you to reach out and take a hand for our closing word together. as you go from this place, may you be blessed. May you be blessed by the sudden awakening to truth. One truth is that you are the builders. You are the imaginers. You are the creators. You are the ones who have the capacity to love beyond any precedent. On this day, may you be blessed by that knowledge as you come to the sudden awareness of all of those around you who are with you in the great project. Go, my friends. Go in peace. Go in power. Amen.